Aloha, I'm Deb,
I'm Greg.
and we're the two Turas.
Turas being Scottish for explorer or adventurer.
This is the first part of our Hawaiian land and sea adventure with Norwegian Cruise Lines, the 3 days in Oahu.
So we don't work for the travel industry, nor are we influencers. Everything is simply our experience, what we liked or didn't, and have discovered in our adventures.
If you find this interesting, helpful, or just want to stay connected, please click the subscribe and like.
We landed in Oahu after about 13 hours of airports and airplanes around 3:30 p.m. Hawaii time, which was 6 hours earlier than home. NCL had shuttles waiting to take guests to the hotels. Good tip is that the NCL rep was backed by the baggage claim.
We were traveling light with just our carry-on bag and backpack, but most people had multiple checked bags.
We checked into our City View room at the Hyatt Regency Resort and Spa.
While it had 2 queens, it was nice that these are actual full-size queen beds. Lots of storage space, extra seating, and a small balcony that gave us views of the city and surrounding area.
Bathroom divides into 2 spaces, making it nice when we're both getting around in the morning. The hotel is a bit older, but nicely updated.
Daily cleaning and linen changes are back too.
As it was almost 11 p.m. on our body clocks, we decided to grab some food at the hotel's pool deck restaurant called Swim.
Even the indoor seating was open air and the sunset was gorgeous. Food and drink is served in plastic because, well, poolside.
In addition to a local beer, I had ahi tuna tacos that were really, really good.
I started off with a celebratory glass of bubbles and coconut shrimp.
And the pigeons were so much a part of things. The restaurants have people shooing them away and covers on the tables to protect the food if you should walk away.
After eating, we crossed to the beach to enjoy the balmy breezes and stick our toes in the ocean.
And there were surfers still out enjoying the sunset too. But we may have paid too much attention to the view and not to the water.
Yep, all of a sudden a wave came in and we were wet well beyond bare skin, but it all dried pretty quickly.
Waikiki and Honolulu are busy, but there's still an underlying laid-back feeling.
And don't forget the ABC stores where you can pick up things you may have forgotten or just didn't want to pack.
As well as inexpensive Hawaiian shirts and t-shirts.
Thursday was a bit later start, so we took advantage of the hotel buffet.
This is not your typical hotel buffet, and it was our first bit of Hawaii's prices sticker shock, $40 per person.
But it was a massive and delicious spread with non-stop Kona coffee, tons of fresh fruit, and lots of unique to us dishes.
We even had steamed fish.
After breakfast, we checked in with the NCL rep in the lobby and received our bus assignments.
There were 3 tour buses of people, and we were on the same bus every day.
Reuben was our driver. He's a native of Hawaii and was enjoyable as well as knowledgeable, not only about the area, but on how to give his guests the best possible experience.
After driving up through Honolulu and around the west end of Oahu, our first stop was at Dole Plantation.
The stop here was centered around the guest house, which was essentially a gift and snack shop.
We spent most of our time outside checking out the vegetation.
There were so many flowers, especially versions of the hibiscus. The pure yellow version is the Hawaiian state flower.
The little green lizards, geckos, are quite common.
There were also mongoose darting around, but getting a picture of one of those was not something I managed.
The rainbow eucalyptus trees are everywhere, and yes, the bark is naturally a rainbow of colors.
We did pop into the shop area for a moment or two, looked at a bunch of things, and yes, when I saw they had fabric, I did bring home a stack of quilt squares.
We did see a working wildfire off in the distance. Reuben did downplay that a bit, saying it was pretty much under control, which really wasn't quite accurate.
In years past, it was possible to go into the canning portion of the plantation and into the fields themselves. As you can see from some of these pictures, the pineapples for this year are already harvested, and that red dirt, that's volcanic lava that's broken down into soil. Our journey continued up and along the North Shore. This is a much less populated area, but it is where the big waves are found.
There's only one resort on this side of the island. So to visit, you have to drive, take a bus, etc. from the other side of the island.
But it is definitely worth seeing. While it would have been nice to get out at one of the beaches, parking's far too limited for a tour bus.
Speaking of beaches, none of them are privately owned. If you can get to it, you can be on it.
Our second stop of the day was the Polynesian Cultural Center. We arrived around 11:30 and Reuben advised we should have some lunch, and he'd either find us once he picked up our tickets or to meet him at 12:30 by the Shaka statue.
Seemed odd, but we were hungry and decided to try pounders at his suggestion. Many of the people on our bus did the same, and we were seated with 3 other couples.
That lovely drink is an iced tea. We enjoyed a garlic shrimp bowl and Korean fried chicken with macadamia nuts and a side of kimchi cucumbers. Yum.
After eating, as we had tickets, we headed towards the entrance and found a backup of people. The center itself doesn't actually open until 1 p.m.
This seemed odd, but as most of the interpreters are students at the nearby Brigham Young University, it eventually made sense. Class in the morning, work study in the afternoon.
There are 7 areas featuring Hawaii, 5 islands the original Hawaiians came from, and a mission settlement. Mormon and other missionaries began coming to Hawaii once it was discovered by Western explorers.
Each area had interpreters in cultural costume, examples of buildings, as well as hands-on activities, displays, demonstrations, and shows.
It was quickly apparent that a lot of what was being presented was, let's say, sanitized. So we decided to play along and enjoy the fun.
We wove a fish toy from coconut leaves in Hawaii, got tattoos in Fiji, and took a ride in an outrigger canoe in the Central River.
It was only about 5:30 when we arrived back at the hotel, but it had been another long day, so back to swim for dinner.
Tonight it was a garlic shrimp pizza, a local specialty, we were told, and it was really good, as was the sunset once again.
We made it an early night as Reuben wanted us out to the bus and ready to roll at 7 a.m. So the alarm was going to be set for 5:30 a.m.
Getting to Pearl Harbor was the bucket list item that spurred a trip to Hawaii in the first place. The original itinerary for this trip said getting on the Arizona was not guaranteed because tour groups are not allowed to get those tickets in advance.
But Reuben told us that the day before that we were going to get there early, and for those of us who wanted to do this, to go straight to the standby line.
He had pointed out several spots from the invasion during our travels the day before, including where the second wave came in over the mountains as they approached Hickam Field.
We followed his suggestions and were in line to watch the colors raised at 8 a.m. on a morning not unlike the day of the attack. Sparkling blue skies with a bright sun. And then we walked on to the first transport boat of the day.
Each boat takes about 150 passengers to the memorial. And the memorial isn't that big. Crew reminded everyone that this is a place of reverence, and most people did stay quiet.
Everything above the waterline has been removed, but you can still see remnants of the gun turrets, and there is still oil leaking from the ship.
Back on land, we stopped to get stamps for the National Park book and headed to the shuttle to Ford Island. This is the only way to get to the Missouri and the Aviation Museum, as it is still an active military base.
The USS Missouri is the battleship where the treaty with Japan was signed. We took the self-guided tour, including both on deck and many spaces below.
We easily spent over 2 hours exploring not just the decks, but living and eating areas, as well as how various offices and services were set up.
The Missouri was in service through the first Gulf conflict, so various eras are represented.
The Aviation Museum did have some new things, but many of the displays were repetitions of what we saw at the World War II Museum in New Orleans, so we didn't spend a ton of time in that building.
The second hangar is mainly being used for maintenance at this point in time. However, the blue and white glass is the original to the attack. It was left in place, including the bullet holes, to remind mechanics they were in a war zone.
It was also featured in the 2001 Pearl Harbor movie, as was the red and white water tower, although it wasn't there in 1941.
Back at the National Memorial, we took a quick tour of the Bowfin submarine and toured.
No matter what we do, we tend to find interesting tidbits. In this case, as part of the battle flag exhibit, there was a hand-operated Singer sewing machine that had been used to make one of these flags.
One thing to remember if you go there is that there is a very strict no bag policy at Pearl Harbor. Essentially, if it doesn't fit in your pocket and you absolutely need it, take a clear vinyl bag and it will still have to be hand searched before you are allowed in.
The National Cemetery of the Pacific is located inside the Punchbowl crater, thus often referred to as the Punchbowl Cemetery or just the Punchbowl.
It has ancient roots in the Hawaiian culture. Translation of the traditional Hawaiian name is Hill of Sacrifice.
A large monument stands at the far end of the Court of Honor. Here Lady Columbia stands atop the bow of a ship underway, holding a laurel branch. She is said to represent all grieving mothers.
On the way back to the hotel, we drove through the historic area of Honolulu, where we saw the palace and several other major sites, again from the bus.
After a stop at the hotel, we had a couple of hours to walk the beach, including the obligatory stop at Duke Kahanamoku's statue.
We'd asked at the concierge desk about a local spot for dinner, and following that advice, we found ourselves at Lilihana Bakery for dinner. In addition to the actual bakery, there is a lovely bistro with open-air dining.
Of course, we had drinks and a most delicious dinner. The rolls are baked daily, and then for dinner are toasted and served with a side of guava jelly. Our main course was miso butterfish. It was recommended and did not disappoint. Not only delicious, but flaky and melted like butter in my mouth.
We picked up a couple of malasadas, a Portuguese-filled donut for breakfast the next morning. And then it was back to the hotel for one last sunset and a nightcap before packing to check out in the morning.
It was another early morning to finish packing, gulp down a quick breakfast, and check out before being back on the bus by 7 a.m. Apparently we did well, though, as we were the first bus pulling away, which made Reuben very happy.
Our first stop of the day was at the Hanola Blow Hole on the east side of the island. It was pretty cool, and the sunrise wasn't bad either. Let me know.
Go.
Too hard. hit it too hard.
Uh-oh. The chickens will be liking you.
This was a day of many stops, with a chance to crack open our own macadamia nuts to taste.
A stop at the Byodo-en Buddhist temple, where tradition says if you ring the bell, it will bring 7 years good luck.
Last stop of the day was Kualoa Ranch, located in several of the wedges that run from the mountains to the sea and are said to include entire ecosystems for a community's needs. They have a lot of things going on there, including movie and TV filming.
Some of this honestly felt like filler until it was time to take us to the ship.
And after 3 pretty intense days of sightseeing, people were getting a little tired of being on a bus, too.
That was the 3-day land portion of our trip. The next is on the ship.
As with any tour, we like some things better than others, but overall it was a good way to sample, with some deeper experiences, a lot of Oahu. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the comments and we'll do our best to get back to you. Remember to hit like and subscribe so you'll know when the next video is ready. Mahalo!